This is the World Financial Report podcast. My name is Randy Marshall. Joining us is our financial and diamond expert, Harold Siegel. We're taping on October the 4th, 2018. Our time is 8:10 Mountain. Connect with Harold at rarecoloreddiamonds.com, 1-800-432-1022. Couple of notes. Happy Thanksgiving long weekend for everyone in Canada. Monday is Thanksgiving. Don't forget the time change from daylight to standard back November the 4th. A little later in the show, we'll talk about a pink diamond selling for a record price per carat at auction. US dollar at 95.71, Canadian dollar 77.68, euro 1.15, the pound 1.30, gold at $1,203, silver 14.66, gold silver ratio is 81.68. It was at 85 not too long ago. Platinum, $8.25. Palladium. We have an article in our free weekly newsletter. Palladium is up 30% over the last 6 weeks. They think that it could actually maybe go beyond gold. It's currently at 1,057. WTI, 75.88. Brent, 85.98. Nat gas, 3.25. Bitcoin in US dollars, 65.45. Bitcoin in Canadian, 84.26. The Dow at 26,749. S&P, 29.25, NASDAQ 79.55, and TSX 16,072. One of the big stories this week, Harold, it finally happened. They got down to the deadline and they made it happen. The NAFTA deal is done. It will now be called USMCA, but there is a trade agreement between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. The next challenge for the U.S. President Donald Trump, getting a deal with China. But finally, Canada, Mexico, and the United States can live peacefully on a trade basis, because it was getting pretty crazy there towards the end with some of the things that Trump was saying, Harold.
And it really hasn't changed hardly at all from what it was before. So I really don't know what the big deal is. He's just, a guy that's flexing his muscles and, he's so full of himself and all that. This never should have gotten down to what it did with hard feelings and fighting and that type of thing. We're neighbors, we're friends, we've been that way forever. Why make life more complicated than it is? But, that's Donald Trump for you. He's got a lot of enemies out there, but there's a lot of people in the States that say he's doing a great job. And, the stock market has been in a 10-year bull market, which is really amazing. Not too often, do we get extended bull markets or pick a trend in a market that really is going to last a long time and make a lot of money. The two that really come to mind are, number one, the market that we're experiencing right now, from when the market bottomed out in 2008, from 14,000 to 6,500. At that point, from 6,500 up till 26,000, we've seen a 20,000 point move in the Dow that has basically been interrupted. So for those that were fortunate enough to buy at the bottom at 6,500 and are still in the market today, that's been a 10-year bull market that has more than likely made, certain investors, tremendously wealthy. The other one that comes to mind is the one that we were involved in from 1999 or 2000, basically, all the way to 2011, was an 11-year bull market in gold and silver that took gold prices from $250 all the way up to 1,900. That was the biggest bull market of all time in commodities, and it was a market that we were involved in from the very beginning. It was our radio show that identified the gold market at 250 and the U.S. dollar when it was coming down from 109 all the way down to 72.5 cents, which made gold go from 250 all the way to 1,900. So it's very seldom that you can ever get a trend from beginning to end. And if you're fortunate enough ever to be involved in one of those markets, it's the time you'll look back at and say, boy, I made a lot of money, but if I knew more, I would have been, ridiculously wealthy. But again, a 10-year bull market in stocks, 11-year bull market in gold, it's the thing that dreams are made of, to be able to get involved in a market at the beginning and run it for that long. The problem is that the general public, they always get involved too late. So, for example, with the stock market, you're getting more people buying stocks now than they did when the market was down at 7,000 points. So the fact is, you've got to weigh the risk and reward and say, after 10 years of a market going straight up, it's probably not a great idea to jump into the market without seeing some type of pullback. That's what I would definitely recommend, is never buy in to a heavily running market until the market pulls back and gives you that opportunity.
Speak with Harold about blockchain, also Argyle Pink Diamonds. Speak with him at rarecoloreddiamonds.com, 1-800-432-1022. We've been keeping track of the U.S. federal debt and deficits. The total federal debt for the United States for fiscal 2018, $21 trillion. So the federal debt increased by 1.271 trillion. Now they're at a debt level of 21.5 trillion. They started out the year at 20.2 trillion. Here in Canada, Swiss investment bank UBS has deemed Toronto and Vancouver to have among the world's biggest housing bubbles, with mispricing that's even more pronounced. Expensive cities like Paris and San Francisco. In an annual report published Thursday, the Swiss bank took a look at 20 cities around the world. The list included familiar names such as Tokyo, New York, Sydney, Singapore, but on the list, Toronto and Vancouver. They are high on the list. Home sales in Metro Vancouver fell sharply in September. Year over year, they were down 43.5%. Now, the price of homes stayed roughly the same. Harold, at some point, if these homes start to go down in value, and it has to happen because, let's face it, how do you afford a home in Vancouver when it's over $1 million? We've all seen the pictures on the internet with a little shack in a part of Vancouver, and they want multi-million dollars for it. There's no logic behind it. Eventually, there will be a pullback in prices. It's just a matter of time. In Vancouver, Toronto, it's a scary scenario, Harold.
It certainly is. And don't forget, interest rates are fluctuating. So not only, are you looking at ridiculously high-priced homes and real estate in those two cities. Now, Toronto, I can understand, it's a major financial center. But with Vancouver, you've got a lot of foreigners that are coming over and buying that land, because I just don't see how a Canadian family can afford those type of inflated prices. I mean, I just don't see it. Our currency is not strong. Interest rates are going up. It's not like business is absolutely booming. Things haven't changed all that much over the last 4 or 5 years financially. So, to have a multi-million-dollar home when you're only earning $50,000 or $100,000 a year is impossible. It just can't be done. So, again, I agree with you, Randy, that the inflation prices of these homes are frightening. And when the market does collapse, like we've seen at times, it could be very detrimental not only to the economy, but obviously to the banks and to the people that own them. Because the fact is, if they keep on raising interest rates in Canada, which they will because of inflation, it's only going to make the mortgage rates go higher, which is going to cost a lot more as far as financing your home. So it's a concerning situation. That's another situation like the U.S. stock market that I wouldn't just jump into at the height of the market. That's where you get hurt. You wait for these prices to retract before you make any moves, whether it's speculation or whether you're actually buying a home for your family.
Connect with Harold and get our free weekly newsletter, the companion to the podcast. 1-800-432-1022, rarecoloreddiamonds.com. In our chart of the week, we have a chart on Ford stock. There are 3 stocks we're going to talk about here right now, and you will be surprised if you do not follow them. Ford stock. The slump has sent its dividend to the highest in 2001. Since that time, Ford's share price is sending its dividend to the highest in 17 years, an indication of just how rich a disbursement the company is paying during troubled times. The automaker's stock fell to $9.20 on Tuesday, the lowest close since August of 2012. That means Ford's 15-cent a share dividend quarterly has a rate of 7.93%, the last it's been like that since September of 2001. Wall Street has warned that Ford may have to to pare back its rich dividend, the most generous among the automotive group, as it's just too much. And the company maintains, though, that it can continue to pay that out. Two more stocks that we want to mention. GE ousted their CEO, John Flannery. Their stock has just been pummeled. Harold warned us about GE stock many, many years ago. This is a statistic that blew my mind. Since the peak of the price of GE, they have lost $500 billion in market cap. That has been wiped out in 18 years. Third stock. Sears is now a penny stock. Sears stock has fallen into the bargain bin. It's below $1 a share. Friday, it dropped as much as 15% to 85 cents in midday trading. I did check it at one point this week. It was down to 75 cents. You think about it, back in its day, it was sort of the Walmart and Amazon of its time. And here the company is shutting down stores, laying off people. There was a time it was one of the largest employers in the United States. But now, Harold, it is a penny stock. When you look at the other side of the spectrum, the FANG stocks, we're talking about Facebook and Amazon and Google and Apple, how their prices have just gone through the roof. Times are changing.
Boy, are they ever. When you talk about, if you have gone back to our fathers and grandfathers, those were the top stocks. You're talking about Ford. I mean, when you think of cars in Detroit, you think of Ford. You think of Sears Roebuck. I mean, it's really, and General Electric. I mean, all of our appliances were General Electric, one of the biggest companies in the world. So to think that now we're talking about the demise of these three major companies. Now, again, Ford is not going under, but a $9 stock for a company of that magnitude is pathetic. And Sears is going under. We've known all the stores in Canada are closed, and most of the stores are closing in the United States. And General Electric was a massive company, not only appliances and that type of thing, but in the financial services business. And again, yes, we did see that coming, but you're talking about a stock that went from $85 down to $5 and has never really climbed that much from that point. So I would say that the sign of the times is that these massive corporations, from back in our fathers' days, may not be here anymore. Just three stocks that you spoke about, Randy, and all three of them are either under or on the verge of going under. It's an unbelievable scenario.
Connect with Harold and learn about blockchain. Also learn how you can take advantage of the fact that the Argyle mine in Western Australia is shutting down, how you can invest in Argyle pink diamonds. Go to rarecoloreddiamonds.com or speak with Harold at 1-800-432-1022. Harold found a story a couple of weeks ago about China and how they were putting throughout the entire country cameras to keep an eye on people and even listen in on what they were saying, and people would be graded on how good they were. Now it's happening in the United States. Not to that extent, but it is a little scary. The U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency is expected to complete a 30-day test next month of use of facial recognition technology, and it's been used at different airports. An audit shows in the pilot program that so far they have a match rate of matching people's faces at 85%. Their goal was 97 to 100. Let's take it to the next step here now. So that is a trial, and they hit 85%. New facial recognition technology has identified 3 imposters at Washington's Dulles International Airport. Citing a U.S. Customs and Border Protection release, the Washington Post reports a woman arrived on a flight from Accra, Ghana, presented a U.S. passport, but the facial recognition technology reported a mismatch. A secondary inspection and biometric examination identified her as a 26-year-old citizen of Cameroon, not the United States. Harold, this is the future. On some level, it does provide security. On another, as you go out throughout your everyday life, knowing that there could be cameras out there reading your every move, it scares the living you-know-what out of me.
Well, you should be. Again, in a lot of cases, it's going to be beneficial. Obviously, just the test that they did at the airports, proved that it is working. So that's a good thing. However, to take it to the level that China has, where you're going to basically be put on a graded system depending on how you act and how you react to certain things. If you're walking down the street, talking to a friend, you happen to bring up the government, all of a sudden that conversation is going to be isolated and listened to. And if what you're saying is derogatory towards the government, your score is going to be diminished. So basically, they're almost going to have you like on a credit score. If you're a good guy, your score goes up. If you're not, your score is going to go down. And if your score is low, it's going to affect you in a very, very severe way. You may not be able to travel out of China. You may not be able to travel out of China by plane or by train. You may not be able to get favorable rates on a mortgage. Your kids may not go to the right school. All this because everything that you do is going to be monitored. Now, you would say in a country like China, where you're talking billions of people, how easy is that to do? But the fact is that they feel that with 600,000 cameras strategically located in the areas that they have them, that it's going to get the job done. So the future is here today. We spoke about that the last few weeks with blockchain and everything that's happening in the world today financially. Things are changing quickly, and if you're not on top of them, they're going to pass you by. So there's situations happening like this facial recognition that was spoken about, years and years ago, and now here it is, working and in our everyday lives, and soon to be predominant in our everyday lives. It's a scary thing.
If you would like to see the stories that we talk about on the podcast, get our free weekly newsletter. We do it in a way you can go through it in mere minutes on any device. Speak with Harold at rarecoloreddiamonds.com or 1-800-432-1022. We do have a big section on gold and silver. Bank of Nova Scotia has settled charges filed by the United States Commodity Futures Trading Commission that it was spoofing in gold and silver futures contracts. They're going to pay an $800,000 civil monetary penalty and make sure that it does not happen again. So there we go. Yes, manipulation. Greg Hunter did an interview with Peter Schiff, and people, he says, will be dumping dollars and buying gold. You can read that article. We have the article I mentioned off the top. Palladium may soon be worth more than gold. The price of palladium has an impressive climb so far of 30% over the past 6 weeks. I remember many years ago, Harold recommended palladium. We offered palladium coins that have done very, very well. 180, and it went to over $1,000. It pulled back as many metals did, and now here it is back today. As I quoted off the top, you had palladium at 1,057. Harold, that was a great call, and we are still bullish on palladium because it's a metal that is a must use in many, many different areas of the economy.
Now, the biggest moves in palladium came because the price of platinum was so high and palladium was way below it, but had several of the same characteristics. And one of the most important things is that palladium could be used in the catalytic converter industry, which was predominantly what platinum was used for. So you had platinum at well over $1,000, and you had palladium at around $180 to $200. It's really a no-brainer that if you were going to use palladium and it does the same job as platinum in the catalytic converters, why in the world would you want to use platinum at over 1,000 when you could use palladium at under 200? And that started it, and palladium went from 180, where the recommendation was, all the way up to over $1,000. Clients that were involved in that did very, very well. And now you've got another run coming. Now you've got to ask yourself, because the price of palladium is now higher than the price of platinum, is the opposite going to happen? If the price of palladium, gets up to $1,400 and platinum is down at $800 or $900, is all of a sudden you're going to see the platinum market move up and palladium move down, we'll have to let you know as we see those situations unfold.
In our newsletter, we also have a section on diamonds, rare colored diamonds. Rarecoloreddiamonds.com is Harold's website. This week, they actually took the Argyle Pink Diamond tender to New York City. The tender is going to be wrapping up here around the middle of October. At that time, we will know exactly how the tender went. There was a story that I did find, and I thought it was verifying what we already know, but it's always good to let people know exactly when this mine is going to be shutting down, because there's an opportunity here. Rio's Argyle mine in Western Australia has sufficient reserves to operate till about 2020. So here we are about roughly 2 years away. Now the Divic mine in Canada is likely to continue to 2025. Rio remains untroubled by the rise of laboratory-grown diamonds that are being targeted at younger consumers and sold for a fraction of the cost of natural stones. Producers include De Beers. They're starting to sell some of these diamonds. Synthetic gems are unlikely to compete with Rio's products, particularly its colored offerings that include pink diamonds from Argyle. That, according to Arnaud Sorat. He's the CEO of its copper and diamond unit for Rio Tinto. He put it this way: anyone can buy a copy of a Picasso painting, but it's a copy. The Picasso is a one-off. It's something which is rare, incredibly special, and increasing in value. When you look at natural colored diamonds, it's the same, and we totally agree, Harold. You want the Picasso, you don't want the knockoff or the print from Walmart or wherever you get it from, IKEA. That's why we believe there's an opportunity in this Argyle pink diamond market. 2020, the mine is shutting down. 90 to 95% of the world's pink diamonds are going to be gone. Their current tender has 63 diamonds. They have maybe 2 or 3 more tenders before the tenders are done. There is an opportunity for people that would like to look at investing in pink diamonds from the Argyle mine, because very soon they are going to be a rare hot commodity.
I mean, there's nobody in the know that would ever think that a laboratory-grown diamond could ever compete in price with a natural diamond. For example, on last week's show, we talked about one of the rarest pink diamonds that's going to be coming up for auction very soon, and they anticipate that the price is going to be somewhere, was it in the 50 million range, Randy,
That's right.
or 25?
Yeah, it was 50, yeah.
Okay, so why would anybody think that somebody, first of all, that has $50 million to spend on an investment or on a diamond would ever think that that was a bad investment? I mean, if he's going to spend $50 million, it's because he feels, or she feels, whoever the investor is going to be, that this is a good investment for the future and something that they want to own. That will never, ever happen with a laboratory-grown diamond. It's just not possible. In actual fact, this will only increase the price of naturally found diamonds, because they just won't, you're just never going to find these. And again, there's just no way in the world that if there was a machine that could produce a Picasso or a Rembrandt, but it is a copy, that it would ever come close to selling for what the original would sell for. It's just foolish to even think that that's going to interrupt this market in any way. So I'm in full agreement with Argyle. The fact is that they can grow diamonds all they want in the laboratories, but it doesn't come up through the ground. It wasn't a billion years in the offering and in the making. There's just no comparison whatsoever. I personally would never, ever give my wife a fake diamond, just like I would never buy her a fake purse or a fake painting.
Christie's 19-carat pink diamond could bring up to $50 million at auction. That's the diamond that Harold was talking about, going to be auctioned off in November in Geneva. Price between $30 to $50 million. It's a rectangular cut pink legacy. It's rated vivid, the highest rating for a diamond's color and weight at 18.96 carats, making it the largest fancy vivid pink diamond Christie's has ever offered at auction. Now here's the story that we promised announced at the beginning of the podcast. A fancy pink diamond weighing 5.03 carats raked in $583,551 per carat. That was at Bonhams. A fancy pink diamond sold for, this is in US dollars, $2.9 million. And Bonhams went on to say that this is a new auction world record for a pink fancy diamond per carat. According to Emily Barber, director of jewelry at Bonhams UK, the diamond achieved the price due to a number of factors. Its size, it's exceptionally rare to see a pink over 5 carats on the market today. Color saturation was very, very special and a very elegant cut. Harold, they're saying it's a world record.
Isn't that amazing? My wife's, and I've spoken about this on the show before because my wife's girlfriend has a 5-carat fancy pink that she inherited from her grandmother, who bought the diamond 50 years ago for $50,000. So here's a $50,000 diamond that if my wife's girlfriend put it up for auction, it should sell for the same price, basically, as this 5-carat diamond just sold for, because it's also 5 carats. You know, you're talking about a $50,000 investment 50 years ago is worth almost $3 million today. I highly doubt that there's hardly any investments that could make that type of return as with the colored diamond market. Just absolutely amazing.
Speak with Harold about investing in Argyle Pink Diamonds. Find out more about blockchain. Connect with him at 1-800-432-1022 or rarecoloreddiamonds.com. As we're towards the end of our podcast, a couple of interesting notes. Nearly 2 million people have fled Venezuela since the economic and political crisis started in 2015. According to the UN, they called for a non-political response to an exodus that is straining regional resources. Facebook said it discovered a security breach earlier in the week that affected almost 50 million accounts. So Mark Zuckerberg, once again, doing an outstanding job. Calgary, and I mentioned this to Harold, poor Calgary, our friends to the south, they had record-breaking snowfall at the beginning of the week, over 30 centimeters. They're digging out, and there's no fun with that. Forbes came out with their Forbes rich list. Donald Trump is down $1 billion, according to them, but not Jeff Bezos. You'll love the numbers here, Harold. This is amazing. He is worth $160 billion. He added $78.5 billion this year. His company, Amazon, is now worth over $1 trillion. Great numbers. You think about it. Here's a guy, $215 million a day, worth $160 billion. Just absolutely crazy when you think about it, Harold.
Well, just a brilliant man. Did what he had to do, and he's doing a lot of good for the country and the world. He's a very generous person. Very smart, made his parents very rich. We had that story on our show. Just absolutely a phenomenal success story, changing the retail business as we know it right in front of our eyes. He deserves his success. He's an amazing person.
On the last show, I made Harold very happy. That's because I said Toronto's going to win the Stanley Cup. EA Sports, the people, the video game people, they have out their NHL version of 2019 season. They ran a simulation. Toronto beats the San Jose Sharks in the Stanley Cup. John Tavares, the new player for the Toronto Maple Leafs, is going to be the Conn Smythe Trophy winner as most valuable player in the playoffs. Last night, Toronto beat in their very first game of the regular season Montreal 4-3. In our free weekly newsletter, I do have a picture in the diamond section of the Washington Capitals rings that they received in a private gathering Monday, 2 days before they opened the 2018-2019 season. They raised the banner last night. They were given these rings, and they are gorgeous. 252 diamonds, 35 rubies, and a sapphire. Everyone was saying, oh, they partied so hard. There's no way they're going to have a good season. They'll be tired. Last night, they beat Boston 7-0.
Wow.
So much for the hangover, Harold.
Well, that's great. I want hockey to be successful. I want it to be, I want Canada to come back, and I just want a Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup. I'd be ecstatic if it was Toronto. You know, it's been since 1967, that's 51 years that the loyal, Toronto Maple Leaf fans have still filled every single game, every single seat, and has seen basically nothing back. Hopefully this year, it's going to be a good year. And in last night's game, Matthews scored the winning goal. He had 2 goals, and Tavares had a goal. So, Toronto came back and won at the end. It wasn't the prettiest game, but it was the first game of the year, and it's a good thing to grow on.
Montreal, I know there were a lot of concerns, but I give them credit last night. I did watch the game, and they were really buzzing. Carey Price, after a bad year, really bounced back. I thought Toronto would have won a lot more easier than they did if it had not been for Carey Price. He made some outstanding saves. And Harold, we want to wish you and your wife, Harriet, a happy 36th wedding anniversary. It happened a little earlier in the week, and I know your wife, she's just an outstanding lady. 36 years together. Congratulations.
Thank you very, very much. Just madly in love with her, 36 years. For those that you don't know, we only knew each other 2 weeks before we got married. I met her at the beach one day and introduced myself as Harold Siegel. She laughed at that and said that was her father's name, Harold Siegel, same as mine. 2 weeks later, we got married, and it's been 36 years on Tuesday. And she's just the love of my life, just an amazing woman. And we take care of a 4-year-old grandson full time. So we're back to being parents again, but it's a wonderful thing. And again, I owe my wife everything in the world. She's just been a rock and just the most beautiful woman I could have ever married. I'm very proud.
Congratulations to Harold and Harriet, 36 years together. Harold, we're at the end of the podcast. We want to give you some final thoughts here, but Thanksgiving is coming up on Monday here in Canada, and I know you love Thanksgiving.
Oh boy, who doesn't? Canadian Thanksgiving is on Monday. I want to wish all Canadians a very, very happy Thanksgiving. Have an amazing day off, a phenomenal dinner, and again, we wish you a wonderful weekend and a very profitable day.
Good luck to Harold's Patriots playing Indianapolis tonight. My Packers play the Lions on Sunday. So happy Thanksgiving long weekend. Don't forget the time change coming up from daylight to standard November the 4th. Connect with Harold at rarecoloreddiamonds.com or call 1-800-432-1022. That's it. Another edition of the World Financial Report podcast. For Harold Siegel, my name is Randy Marshall. We will talk to you next week.